I never got to meet my great-grandfather, Frank Rush. In fact, no one I know in the family did, since Frank died in 1934. I do know he was a commercial baker, and he left behind a few artifacts, including his handwritten cookbook. I'm boiling down and making Frank's recipes as a tribute to him and to other family members that we'll never get to meet. I'm Tom Mattingly, and this is Baking with Frank. Welcome back to Baking with Frank. So, I thought after our last couple of weeks of, well, let's just call them struggles, we go to something a little more reliable. And as we know, Effie, Frank's wife, put all of her recipes in Frank's book after 1942. Frank died in 1934. But hers were either ones that she had broken down from Frank's recipes or her own that were in more manageable measurements for today's use. And also because she had actually written down ones that she baked individually rather than commercially, there's usually a little more success. So we're gonna give one of those a shot today. And Effie calls it Spanish cake. So I did quick Google just because Spanish cake seemed like a very generic term. And the closest thing, I'm grabbing my iPad here so that I can say this right. The closest thing that I could find is I think it's called a pica blanca, which is effectively a white cake that is made with egg whites, whipped cream, etc., etc. This doesn't have those things specifically in it, but it seems to be the closest mix. It seems to be the closest list of ingredients as what's in the Spanish cake from Effie. I can't talk today. Wow. Okay. We're going to start over. Welcome to Baking with Frank. I'm not going to go all the way back. All right. So anywho, back to us. This one's really simple. So we're going to start out with a half cup of shortening, not butter, but shortening. In this case, it is butter flavored shortening. Looked this one up too because I was just interested. Shortening came out in 1911. So it had been out quite some time before, at the earliest, Effie would have written this down in 1942. So, shortening goes in, and we are going to cream that with 1 cup of sugar. So I'll get that started. We'll let that cream for a minute, give you a little preview here. Let's raise that up, that'll help. All right, so we have creamed that down as best we can. I very recently learned that that doesn't work as well with shortening as it does with butter, but hey, that's where we are. Adding in 2 eggs, we're gonna give that a run and then get to the other goes. All right, so we have 2 eggs, half cup shortening, a cup of sugar, not a pound of sugar. Don't do a pound of sugar. Please don't do a pound of sugar. We're gonna add to that 1 3/4 cups of flour, all-purpose flour, because it's what we have in the house. Get it all in there, come on. Work with me here. There we go, that's most of it. And 3 teaspoons of baking powder. Now, Effie specifies royal baking powder. I don't have royal baking powder, so I'm using what I have. But anywho, in that goes. And 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm assuming that's where Spanish comes in, although I don't think cinnamon is from Spain. And 1/2 cup of milk. I am using vitamin D milk here because it's what? I don't have to say it anymore. And though it's not in the recipe, I am going to put in about a tablespoon, probably, after I glug it, of vanilla, just for a little extra flavor, because vanilla is objectively delicious. We're gonna spin this up. All right, so we are all mixed. I have sprayed, because spraying is easier than all the other stuff. An 8-inch round pan. And in we go with the batter. Now, I have preheated the oven to 350 degrees. Ooh, there's some things that didn't. Never mind, you didn't hear that. Everything's great. This is gonna be delicious. 350 degrees, as we were saying before you interrupted. 350 degrees, and we are going to bake this for 40 to 45 minutes, if I believe the online recipe. Of course, Effie did not include such instructions, but I'm gonna check it at 30 just to be safe. Let's get that last little bit of goodness in there. And we're gonna take it to the oven, and we're gonna bake it, and then we're gonna have cake. Totally forgot. In the online research, the one that they did a sugar crust on. And essentially, they just withheld some of the sugar. Now they put in a lot more sugar, to be clear. But then sprinkled it on top, like that. And as it baked, it formed a crust. So I thought that'd be fun to give a try, because cake with a sugar crust sounds delicious. Look at that, look at that. So you can see where the crust formed on top. I did test it, it is done. Not 100% sure how we're gonna get it out of there, but that's a half-hour from now problem. So for now, we're gonna let it cool. All right, y'all, there she is. Thing of beauty. We're gonna cut a piece and we're gonna have a cake. I'm gonna go from the lower side. Oh, nice little crunch there. It smells amazing. Looks a little more like a coffee cake than a cake. I'm not mad at a coffee cake. If it came through, I'd probably put pecans or something in it next time. It does taste much like a coffee cake, but that's tasty.